What is going on with Bethesda right now? Fallout 4's anniversary update has been a resounding disaster, but somehow it got even worse. This past week was also meant to be Fallout 76's biggest update ever, but this too launched into problems. And even when it comes to some of Bethesda's other games, like Starfield or Oblivion Remastered, there isn't much positive to talk about on those fronts either. Although, amidst all of this, we might have just gotten a big clarification on the Elder Scrolls 6 release timing because, yeah, it's still very far away. Fallout 4's Anniversary Edition has been a disaster, but what actually triggered me to make this video is how many other things seem to be going wrong or just not that great as well. And even when it comes to Fallout 4's Anniversary Edition, it's even worse than you probably realize. Like, yeah, sure, Fallout 4 got an update, it launched and subsequently broke a bunch of your DLC, mods, and even made some of your save games unplayable, assuming the mod menu even worked in the first place. Oh yeah, and if you actually bought the new bundle, it wasn't always activating. But as I just covered in a video from a few days ago, some of the stuff in this Creations bundle doesn't even work properly, assuming you actually get it activated. Like yeah, once you get in game and unlock this cool new bunker player home, sorry, Bethesda forgot to allow you to fast travel out of it. Yeah, no fast traveling out of your player home. And oh yeah, also no building in the center of your player home, and all the doors are named Test Cell. Not exactly the most homely feeling, but this is the premium paid mod experience we're starting to get used to. And even on the DLC side, despite multiple patches reportedly fixing some of these ongoing DLC issues, tons of PlayStation players still cannot utilize their purchased Fallout 4 DLC. All of this worked a month ago. This was all broken with the most recent update to the game. But all this hardship might be worth it, because the real big update is coming. Bethesda's adding 100 gigabytes of mod space on consoles, at least on Xbox to start, which potentially means way larger mod load orders, way more mods that you can use at once, but also tons of additional mods coming out on consoles. That extra space means even more stuff can be released. Although if you are getting excited for this, make sure you back up your load order. Your load order will be getting wiped with this update if you don't back it up. But as excited as I see people getting for this mod space upgrade, I also see tons of concern. Because yeah, at this point, how do you trust one of these updates to release successfully? The most recent patch 1 update accidentally swapped the save game location, so they had to quickly hotfix things, as many players just found all of their saves missing. The Anniversary Edition patch broke DLC and mods, they had to hotfix it a week later, and they also finally fixed that stutter issue that was added by the next-gen patch from last year. And oh yeah, do you know how the stutter issue that plagued the game for the better half of 2 years was actually resolved? They just undid the changes. It's not like there was some huge technical workaround. No, they just undid what they added in last year to cause the problem in the first place. Pretty unfortunate if you weren't able to play the game as a result of some of these problems. And even on the Fallout 76 side, there has been a consistent problem with broken updates or servers. This week was the release of Burning Springs, Fallout 76's supposed biggest update ever. Even larger than Wastelanders, it was claimed. This should have been a really big moment for the game, but instead, the servers experienced an extended period of downtime and it just didn't really work. If you could get into the game, things were going to be super unstable during this time, but most players weren't able to get into the game at all. So now all of a sudden, as you have a bunch of YouTubers or other media outlets posting their content around a huge new update, it's really defined by some of these server and login problems. Because throughout this launch, Fallout 76 has been up and down for maintenance, and now things do seem to be largely resolved, but this is 2 days later. It took a full day for things to really get fixed. Not a great way to launch your biggest update ever. And at this point, it's a trend. Fallout 76 updates have had critical issues like this in the past, even despite the game featuring a public test server to avoid all of this. One of the big updates from earlier had an issue where some of the enemy bodies would despawn or not spawn in the first place, meaning you couldn't loot the enemies in a game that's heavily focused on looting. There are likely tons of Bethesda devs working way too many hours to fix these problems right now, but there seems to be some kind of fundamental support or resource issue around these launches, because this keeps happening. And it's even worse with Fallout 76 because now is honestly a really great time to be playing this game. They just finished a big rebalance so you could try out a bunch of new builds. The meta has definitely shifted. Right upon logging in, I reworked my own build, and their new region doesn't feel like the biggest ever. The story section of the new content is definitely quite small, and it's artificially extended by some of the challenges you are forced to complete, but the area itself is cool. Exploration is definitely fun at some of the most similar to old school Fallout exploration that we've had in a long time. So it almost feels like Bethesda is just making this same mistake over and over again. They're kneecapping some of their own updates by not giving them enough support or time or testing or something. Honestly, I'm not sure what the issue is, but clearly there's an issue and it's constantly coming up around Bethesda games. And there's also a problem of continued support of these games. This most recent Fallout 76 update also marks the removal of a major feature with caravans. Remember Milepost Zero from last year? It debuted last September, and with Burning Springs has now been fully cut out of the game. This is an incredibly common trend with Fallout 76. We've had numerous major features get added, a ton of dev time spent on them, and then they are quickly abandoned or flat out cut from the game. Honestly, Fallout 76 could be a notably larger game at this point if they weren't constantly developing and then removing those things. There's clearly some kind of management or foresight issue here because this has happened almost every single year this game has been out. And believe me, it's not like we have so much content that you can justify constantly removing content. But then coming back around to this being a broader issue with Bethesda, you have something similar going on with Starfield. Not with them cutting content out of that game, but it seems like Starfield just took the year off for 2025. We got a couple of cool new releases in the form of paid mods earlier this year. Kingat's team dropped Watchtower, which really feels a lot like a DLC. If you're looking for some good new Starfield content, I would either check out Watchtower or Star Wars Genesis, this Star Wars themed overhaul mod list that are honestly pretty great pieces of content you could experience right now. And even just this past week, Starfield has been getting fairly large community content releases. On the free mod side, we just got Defying Fire, a new settlement featuring new NPCs that are voice acted with some totally custom quests. And all of this as a free download. There's really no reason to not try it out if you're playing Starfield. Or alternatively, on the paid mod side, you have Vigilance. For 600 credits, you get a new weapon, armor, and incredibly high quality dungeon. Crimson Flyboy has a great review out on this if you're interested. But from Bethesda officially, 2025 has been incredibly sparse, as new content such as new DLCs and even new ways to travel are confirmed, but seemingly for 2026. And what I will say is, I've seen some things. I'm very, very excited for the future of Starfield. I think 2026 has serious potential. But when you look at 2025 for Bethesda game studios, it feels like a lot of misses, particularly with their existing games and particularly with Starfield. There just hasn't been much going on, and that doesn't feel like a good thing. It doesn't feel like this is an ideal state for this several-year-old game to be in. It's their newest release after all. But I mean, even on Xbox, Starfield now finds itself well below the Xbox 360 version of Fallout New Vegas as far as players go. It's also well below all of those other titles, but that's the closest one that was relevant. Except for one other game which is even lower than Starfield on players, that being Oblivion Remastered. The launch of Oblivion Remastered was my personal gaming highlight of 2025. Even despite some of the leaks ahead of time, Bethesda actually shadow dropping a remaster after all these years is just a moment I think many of us will never forget. And it was very likely a masterful move for the game's reception, because Oblivion Remastered now has barely any players left for two major reasons. The game still stutters and also has a near non-existent modding scene. The patch cycle for Oblivion Remastered was also super odd. It got its first update over 6 weeks after release and only ever got 2 updates in total. The support now seems to have just completely ended. I honestly forgot this game was even a thing for a bit until Bethesda started tweeting about some of the Game of the Year nominations it was receiving. And to me, for how big of a release Oblivion was and Bethesda dropping their first sort of proper remake or remaster, it was really shocking how quickly this one also left the zeitgeist. It took over for like a month or two, and then a lot of people just seemed to move on. And I think a huge reason for that is, of course, the lack of mods. Oblivion Remastered uses dual engines. So visually, a lot of what you're seeing is Unreal Engine 5, but underneath that is the old Gamebryo engine the game originally ran on. This is not super friendly for modding, and of course, no official tools ever came out for this one. So now, when you're looking forward at stuff like a Fallout 3 remaster, I really hope this all doesn't happen again. Fallout 3 has never had a really great modding scene, but a proper remade version with true mod support could yield some really cool stuff. Imagine DLC-sized mods coming out for a well-done remake remake of Fallout 3 in the next few years. That's the type of content that gets me excited for Bethesda games going forward. The remasters and remakes are opportunities to give these games another decade of life thanks to modding, but when you look at what happened with Oblivion and how some of the ongoing support for their other games is going, it just makes something like that seem incredibly unlikely right now. Because if they do follow that same support route as Oblivion for a Fallout 3 remastered, and really just doing the bare minimum post-launch, yeah, I don't exactly think that game will have a successful modding scene. And overall, it almost feels dystopian covering all of this right now. Fallout is on a high from the TV show. People are more excited than ever about these games and even kind of the future around a Fallout 3 remastered. Bethesda is being celebrated for the franchise, and the games feel artificially propped up by this outside source that is finding great success. But when it comes to the games themselves, it's almost like all of these recent updates and many of the actions from the company are harming player counts. And some of the excitement is dwindling from the updates as opposed to being boosted up by it. The 100GB mod increase has the potential to be absolutely massive, but the consistent bugs and issues make it hard to look forward to any of this, at least for me. And then looking forward for the company overall, it's really hard for me to get excited. Their most recent game is just kind of skipped this year, and in a recent interview with Power Unlimited as a part of the Fallout Season 2 press tour, Todd Howard seemed to suggest that The Elder Scrolls 6 was a 2027 or later game, still many years away. Todd Howard was asked what he thinks comes first, GTA 6, The Elder Scrolls 6, or Fallout 5.
I got my fingers crossed for GTA 6.
Yeah, do you think it will really come next year?
I do.
Grand Theft Auto 6 has a November 19th release date, making it very unlikely that The Elder Scrolls 6 could still drop in 2026 after that. And overall, it just feels like a weird time for Bethesda. They really could turn things around if Starfield has a more successful 2026 and some of these updates for Fallout 4 do continue and actually fix all of these issues and then maybe improve things even further. That'd be a really great start to next year. But it feels like more so than ever, there is a lot riding on The Elder Scrolls 6. Bethesda's reputation has taken a hit. You could even just see this in some of the reviews, or how the reviews for some of these games are now changing. We're still years away, so who knows how fan opinions will continue to evolve, but if The Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't stick the landing, I could see that being a really big problem for this company. But I know, at least for me, I'm always trying to stay hopeful about whatever's coming next from Bethesda.